What's up everybody, it's Ansel again and welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at the QK65v2, which I personally believe is QK's best keyboard to date, bar none. Now, I'm gonna do this in a little bit of a weird fashion. I'm gonna start off with the typing feel and then the sound. And normally I save those for later in the video, but I just think that every other aspect of the keyboard is so much more important. And also, these first two aspects of the keyboard, I think QWERTY keys pretty much nailed them, so let's just get right through them and then we'll get to the good stuff. So for me personally, the typing feel of this keyboard is fantastic. So I chose to have the non-flex cut PCB, a palm plate, as well as an aluminum plate. And there are two ways that you can mount this board, top mount and gasket, and both are really good, and both can give you a good sense of bounce, flex, and a little bit of softness. However, even with the aluminum plate in a top mount configuration, you still got a little bit of give. If you're the type of person that's searching for a really stiff typing experience, this board is just not going to be it. Now, I think the sound for this board is actually really good. It's really clean, it's pretty full, has a good amount of body, and rarely does it ever feel empty or hollow. And the spacebar is ridiculous. In nearly every single config that I tested, it sounds so good. Now, I'll also be introducing the Invukeys Red Beans, which are a fantastic switch. They were sent out to me for free, but of course, my honest thoughts right here and now is that they're a really good switch, they sound great, but they absolutely need to be modded, and you're gonna see that in the sound test. See what I mean? The stock alphas aren't amazing, but then the spacebar, oh, it's so good with these switches. So definitely loop these if you get them. I think they're definitely worth it. Just know that you have to mod them going in. Now this sounds really good, super deep, super crisp, no signs of hollowness or ping anywhere. It's just that spacebar isn't great, but honestly, I'm gonna chalk that up to the fact that I used a CRP spacebar. I find that the CRP spacebars don't necessarily work with every switch, and with the Cthulhu's, they're just not that good. That's just how it is, I guess. So with the top mount configuration, you're gonna get a very similar sound. It's just a tad bit deeper and cleaner, and I feel like there's a little more character to the sound when you do this. It's very subtle, and it's much more noticeable in person. Now with this configuration, this sounds so freaking good in either mounting style. I feel like the top mount has just a little bit more definition in body, a little bit more cleanliness and crispness. The gasket mount was just a bit more dampened. I don't really think that this board is hollow to begin with, but you can tell that there's just a little bit something there with the top mount. Okay, so here's the most important part of the board, the construction, design, and assembly. So right off the bat, the board feels really good to hold. And I mean, it feels good. I was never a fan of QK's spray paint. I mean, yes, it was pretty decent, but this time it genuinely feels premium and I don't mind the roughness at all. It also has this one characteristic that other more affordable keyboards typically don't have, and it's heft. A lot of these other more affordable or budget keyboards tend to not have a whole lot of heft. And no, it's no deal breaker, but including the lumen key and the cycle, I believe those both could have been a little more heavy. In regards to design, yes, it's very controversial and I'm sure you've heard all about it. People don't like the little screen on the right side because they feel like it's chonky. They don't like the light bar because it's too much. I say I'm all here for all of this. This board is giving me pure Matrix vibes. It's no longer the simple QK65 that aimed to be minimalist and pleasing everybody. This board is paving its own path. It's being more experimental, it's doing something new, and it's doing something that makes it stand out. Personally, I think that QWERTY keys could have committed harder to this screen. It could have been chonkier, and I love the fact that it lines up with the side bezels. I think that's beautiful, it's awesome, but it could have definitely been chunkier, and I think they could have totally committed to it. I just think that the badge is kind of corny. The fact that it has the word space written all over it in big capital letters is a little too on the nose. It kind of lacks a strong sense of identity that I think QK lacks overall. I think they're getting closer to maintaining and creating a sense of identity and brand, but it's not quite there yet. And I think that rings true even for the screen. I mean, does it have to say retro? Does it have to be game themed? I think you got to go all out on the theming for the board rather than just doing something kind of random. And you can change it. It's super configurable. You can make it look however you want, but I think none of them scream QK to me. None of them scream QWERTY keys. None of them screams, this is unique. To me, it screams checking boxes. While I don't think that this board is trying to check boxes overall, I feel like having that sense of customizability for both the screen and the badges, as great as customizability is, I feel like that is trying to check boxes and is doing its best to, I guess, appeal to a wide audience. But by putting that chunky bezel around the screen on the side, I think you've kind of defeated the purpose of trying to appeal to a mass audience. So just commit, do something that's truly themed and stick to it and really please the people that are really pleased with its design to begin with. But moving on, I believe the rest of the board is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, you got the front lip, which is great. It gives me like Key Cult #2 vibes. This color scheme that I was given is really, really nice, and I love how it looks with the CRP or any kind of like vintagey, beigey keycaps. I love the way the bottom weight looks. And finally, it's just an eye-catching keyboard. Finally, assembly, I love it. The use of magnets over cables is so smart. It just made the board so easy to put together, and it was so refreshing that I didn't have to plug in any cables. I will say though, that the fact that it's screwless and the fact that they use these plastic tabs is a little worrying. The first time I got this keyboard, I wasn't given a manual, so I had no idea how to open it up. I broke those tabs. Yes, they're strong if done properly, but I will say that the longevity of these tabs still worries me a tiny bit. However, if you're not constantly opening it and closing it, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Regardless, the build process is so good. It's the best build process I've ever had, only rivaled by the TKD Cycle 7, which even then, I still think the QK65 is a little bit better, but regardless, it's super easy and fun to build. So here's my little rant. A lot of people hated the design because of how, I guess, loud and how chunky it was. But here's the thing. If you want a minimalist keyboard, if you want something that isn't a huge departure from the QK65 in regards to design and design language, you're gonna get the Neo 65. That's what that series is for now. I think because of the nomenclature of this series, people thought of this as the actual successor to the QK65. But I don't think that's the case. I think the spiritual successor to the QK65 is the Neo 65. And I think that is perfectly fine. And in fact, I think that is better than what people wanted. Neo series is going to be there for the more budget-oriented audiences. But the staple QK line, like the QK65, QK60, this is where QWERTY keys is going to really show themselves to shine. They're going to be more than a budget keyboard manufacturer and designer. They're going to be a big name in creating beautiful designs that stand out, and designs that just might stand the test of time. This is their chance to be experimental, their chance to step into the mid-range to high-end game, and their chance to do something truly innovative with their newfound capital that I'm sure they got from all their previous group buy runs. So yeah, I totally recommend this board for the starting price of $160. It's no longer a budget board depending on how you build it, but it's gonna be pretty hard to make it budget. But regardless, I totally recommend it. It's such a sweet board, and I really cannot wait for what QK has in store for the rest of the hobby for the rest of 2024. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys for watching, and I really appreciate you guys for staying around, even though I don't upload very often anymore. But yeah, hope to see you next time, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.